Benny, a very good afternoon to you. Thanks for joining us on Tice Talk. So, news that you released this week that major companies like BMW are considering moving production of the Mini away from the UK because of the cost of energy. What's going on?
Oh, they are not considering it. They've decided that they will move their production of electric vehicles, the electric Mini, to China. So this obviously has nothing to do with Brexit. It's a German company. They're not moving it to Germany. In fact, Germany is facing exactly the same problems. Tesla has decided to move battery production from Germany to Texas. So energy-intensive industries can no longer survive in Europe and in Britain in particular. And what we're doing is a reverse industrial revolution. It's a de-industrial revolution. We're actually pushing manufacturing abroad because they just can't afford to produce anymore in Britain. And so the public has to expect that their standards of living will go down, that jobs will be very, you can get still jobs in McDonald's, but manufacturing jobs will go. So that's the cost of the green agenda, which the mainstream parties have pushed in a consensus move over the last 20, 30 years. And we'll all pay the price. There won't be any manufacturing left in Britain, that's for sure.
But, okay, so let's just sort of try and challenge that, Benny, because obviously there are other technologies out there. There's the issue of batteries for electric vehicles, and the sort of one of the great new hopes for what they call green jobs is a company called British Volt in the north of England that it's hoped is going to build a huge plant to manufacture these batteries for these electric cars. But it turns out that maybe it's not so good because they're struggling too. What's going on there?
Yes, well, they announced half a year ago that they would delay the production of these batteries because of high energy prices. It's a very energy intensive process to produce and manufacture these batteries. And now they're essentially facing collapse by Christmas, unless someone coughs up 200 million pounds. So all these green tech, and they are not alone. Wind turbine makers are cutting jobs left, right, and center. These green jobs, they are being cut down because European wind turbine makers are no longer competitive. The Chinese building them with cheap coal. So there is no chance for these industries to survive. As I said, there's simply no chance whatsoever unless we bring down the cost of energy. But the government in Britain and in all over Europe, their main priority over the last 20 years, and still their main priority, even the new government here in Britain, is net zero. And as long as the green agenda is the main priority, nothing is going to change.
And so look, I love new technology. I actually interviewed one of the senior directors of British Volt. I want them to succeed because
no chance.
Because no it's chance. British manufacturing, and that's, in a sense, Benny, that's tragic to hear. But you think that the reason that they're struggling is because of the energy cost, not just because they can't raise the money, or is that directly linked?
No. I mean, no investor in their right mind currently would invest in an energy-intensive company in Britain because it's just not affordable. And we're talking about pubs going under and small and medium-sized businesses going under. Of course, they are being propped up by tens of billions of government handouts. But how long is that going to last? If energy prices remain high, the government will run out of cash or will have kind of runaway inflation. So, the economy in Britain is basically on its knees as long as energy prices remain high. And the government seems to be totally, focused on the wrong things. And given that you have a, significant part of the Conservative Party who are working with Labour to kill fracking, which is the only chance really to add to the gas supply, I'm very pessimistic that there is a way out
And, and,
in the
and
short term.
there's another industry which is also really struggling that I welcome your thoughts on, Benny, which is the steel industry, because steel is absolutely critical, frankly, to any country, to any sovereign state. Does not want to be dependent on others for high quality steel. And we've had
Sorry.
the remnants of our steel industry. We've got Tata, who own obviously Port Talbot. We've got the Chinese owned British Steel in the northeast around Scunthorpe and Darlington and the likes, and Skinning Grove. They're both demanding essentially subsidies from the government in order to keep steel manufacturing and to adjust their
Absolutely.
furnaces here in the UK.
That's right. And I mean, let's face it, eventually all these industries will have to be nationalized. So basically, we will have to prop them up, even though they are completely uncompetitive and can't compete internationally. Governments and I guess the next government, the Labour government, will simply nationalize. And we're going back to the 60s and so on. Um, with a big difference. In the 50s and 60s, we still had lots of coal and had relatively cheap electricity and relatively cheap energy. That's gone. I mean, we're sitting on a gold mine of cheap energy, but as I said, the mainstream parties are dead against using it.
And this is an interesting thing, actually, Benny, because in discussions I've had recently, I've actually been surprised. But I think more and more people, particularly in the north, mining communities, who understand the jobs and the wealth that mining, coal mining created, many of them actually would like to reopen the coal mines. Are you hearing similar? Do you think that's an absurd idea? Where are you on that?
Well, look, the mainstream parties, their main priority, the Conservatives, Labour, the Lib Dems, the Greens, their main priority is net zero, is the green agenda. Anything that goes against that agenda is simply impossible in this country. And as long as this consensus remains, this country will go down.
Carol agrees with you. She's just tweeted in, Benny, the cost of net zero. Oh my God, it's frightening. And that's your key message, isn't it?
We've said that for the last 13 years. We've warned people, we've tried to warn people, we've told them it will end in tears, it will end in economic disaster. Now that it's happening, still the parties won't listen. So I'm afraid it will get much, much worse before someone will come and realize we should use our domestic energy sources as much as we can.
I keep using this word. We've got this energy treasure. And the other point that I think, in a sense, we all fail to understand, if we buy energy from overseas, or if we let overseas investors own the wind turbines, the gas producers, the oil producers in the UK, what we're actually doing is we're sending our money overseas. They're sending us energy. We burn the energy. We've got nothing left, and they've got our money, and it ain't coming back.
That's actually not the main problem. If we could buy cheap energy from abroad, we would buy it, right?
But our money's gone.
Pardon?
But then our money's gone, and it isn't coming back.
Our money is gone whether we burn British gas or
yes, but if you buy a British energy, then the money's still here in the British economy.
Not really. That's not how the economy works. So we are buying all sorts of things that we don't produce. This is international trade. The problem is not the international trade. The problem is the cost of it. Think about the gas we use. If we don't use our own domestic shale gas, we will have to rely increasingly on LNG, on liquefied natural gas coming from all parts of the world, which will be 4 times more expensive. And if you are concerned about CO2, it's much more CO2 emission intensive. So it doesn't make any sense. But that's the way we're going. So to cut a long story short, unless someone makes the case that we have to bring down the cost of energy, and none of the mainstream parties are currently doing that, our economy is facing a major disaster. And you think, well, we've been such a wealthy country. Oh, well, think about Venezuela, think about Argentina, think about Italy. These were all used to be very wealthy countries. They messed up, and Britain could easily be relegated into the second league very easily within a few years.
Well, you've just had a message here from Sophie, who agrees with you, Benny. It says, Benny is absolutely correct. The deindustrialization of the Western nation has been going on for 40 years. And in a sense, we're seeing it already in Germany, where demand industrial production is reducing. I mean, it is tragic, isn't it? Because these are well-paid, high-skilled manufacturing jobs that are being sent elsewhere in the world.
Absolutely, and totally unnecessary.
Totally unnecessary.
It's completely self-inflicted.
Benny, it's challenging, it's difficult, but I know you will keep battling on and campaigning, as will I. Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon on Tice Talk. That was Dr. Benny Peiser, Director of Net Zero Watch. He makes a lot of sense on this critical issue.